Good evening, everyone. It's an absolute honor to be presenting to you all the topic Adolescents with Type 1 Diabetes Mellitus Challenges and Nutri Solutions. In this session, I'll be talking about nutritional requirements of an adolescent with type 1 diabetes, the major challenges that an adolescent faces, looking at the psychosocial aspects, and how to manage adolescents with type 1 diabetes. Adolescence is a very difficult period for a person with type 1 diabetes. Dietary management plays a pivotal role in good diabetes care. Living with a chronic disease like type 1 diabetes is a 24/7 balancing act. The teenager has to learn to adhere to meal timings, practice insulin dose adjustment, has to do self-glucose monitoring probably 5 to 6 times. They will have to prick themselves. They will have to do regular physical activity, come rain or shine. They will have to learn how to handle hypoconditions and hyperglycemia, what to do on sick days. Moreover, the hormonal, emotional, and psychosocial changes that occur during adolescence can add to the instability. A brief glance at the nutritional requirement of an adult, you can see that the energy, the macro and micronutrients are much higher during adolescence when compared to an adult. Adolescence is considered as a transitional stage between childhood and adulthood, and it is characterized by rapid growth spurt. It's considered as the second and last chance to grow after infancy. They undergo a growth spurt, which is characterized by accelerated gain in height and weight, changes in body proportion, facial features, and fat depositions, besides other physiological changes. So looking at the principles of dietary management, the nutrient requirements for age and gender for an adolescent with diabetes and without diabetes are the same. They are both in the growing stages and all the calories, micro and macronutrients should be met. The 3 meals, 3 snacks regime should be followed at regular intervals to prevent hypo attacks. All the meals should be planned to avoid glycemic variability throughout the day. It is preferable that each meal contains a protein-rich food which is also rich in fiber, that is a low GI food. A good example is pulses. Consumption of pulses at each meal will help to blunt the spike in blood sugar that usually occurs postprandial. The diet of an adolescent should be a judicious mix of cereals, pulses, flesh foods if they are non-vegetarians, plenty of vegetables, fruits, dairy products, nuts, and fats. All the meals should be planned taking into account the activities and lifestyle of the teenager. Insulin regimes should be tailored to the child's school timings. Some schools start at 7 a.m., in which case the child should take a light snack from home before they reach school, and the breakfast is usually eaten at the first morning bell. The insulin should be accordingly planned, and the mother should be taught to pack the lunchbox accordingly. A responsible teacher, friend, or adult in school should be told about the child's condition, symptoms of a hypo attack, and how to administer first aid during emergencies. On days that there is a physical education class for the child should be encouraged to take an appropriate snack. All patients, irrespective of economic and education background, should be taught the broad principles of healthy eating, balanced diet, and carb counting. DAPHNE is the concept that was put forward by the UK Dietitian Board, where they talk about dose adjustment for normal eating. So here they do the carb insulin ratio. It is calculated and the patient is taught about carb counting. There is a need to customize the dietary management according to patient characteristics and needs. This plate has been shown by most of the speakers today, and it just highlights how important it is. This plate was designed by ICMR and the National Institute of Nutrition, and it recommends sourcing macronutrients and micronutrients from a minimum of 8 food groups per day to achieve a balanced diet. As you can see, half the plate is full of vegetables, 30% is cereals and millets, 10% pulses, and the rest includes nuts and fats. Along with this, a helping of dairy products in the form of milk, yogurt, or curds is recommended. Studies have shown that teenagers with type 1 diabetes suffer from various psychiatric conditions, eating disorders, and substance abuse. We know that the behavioral characteristics of adolescents are also unique. Those of you who have adolescent children at home will understand how they resent parental supervision and have a generally rebellious nature. They rebel against the restrictive nature of diabetes treatment regimes. They exhibit exasperated behavior when their diabetes conditions interfere with peer group activities. They undertake risky behavior, which results in a fluctuating glycemia. This could be binge drinking, binge eating, recreational drug use, unplanned sexual activity, or teenage pregnancy. They are less likely to accept medical advice and adhere to treatment regimes. All this increases the likelihood of an adverse diabetes outcome. Now, who are at risk of psychosocial conditions? Adolescent girls with type 1 are at a higher risk for developing eating disorders compared to their peers without diabetes. Also, you find that eating disorder risk is higher among the females than the male patients with diabetes. Those patients who are in the mid-adolescence with comorbidities are also at a higher risk. Patients who hail from low socioeconomic status or whose parents have health problems are also at higher risk. Teens with type 1 diabetes has expressed lower life satisfaction and health perception than their counterparts without diabetes. This was more evident in girls than boys. So clearly it shows that girls are at a higher risk for psychosocial conditions. Now, parents also perceived certain barriers to healthy eating in their child. Firstly, they found that time constraint, they're especially seen among working parents. They did not have time to prepare homemade healthy meals. Another aspect was expenses. Parents perceived higher costs for healthier foods, and hence they had this perception that they had to pay more to get a healthier food. Peer group pressure, the influence of peers on children's food preference is very strong. Moreover, parents did not want to limit their child's diet or want to make their child feel different. So very often they gave in to the child's unhealthy eating choices. The other barriers include joint family systems, changing lifestyle. Now, how do you handle an adolescent with type 1 diabetes? We need to develop a rapport. The healthcare professional should maintain a mutually respectful relationship with the adolescent. Encourage family and friend support, and we should constantly praise good behaviors. The primary care provider, it may be the mother, the father, a sibling, should be sensitive in identifying psychosocial disorders and promptly refer them to health specialists. No doubt, the best strategy in handling an adolescent with type 1 diabetes is a multidisciplinary approach. The team should involve the doctor, a diabetes educator, a dietitian, a psychologist, the school personnel, family, and peer group. All of them together can help the adolescents to cope with type 1 diabetes. The role of a dietitian is not just doling out nutritional advice. She or he should gain an understanding of the teen's needs, dreams, and aspirations. We should look for and encourage and praise good dietary practices. The dietitian should work along with the adolescent on how to handle special activities, situations, and events in their daily life. Peer support groups are very helpful because it helps the adolescents to realize that they are not alone. The support of family, friends, and peers are very important as these are good coping strategies. In conclusion, I would like to say that the diet counseling of an adolescent with type 1 diabetes should be individualized and include psychological and behavioral strategies to help them manage challenges which are unique to them. Thank you.